I can't understand how anybody playing at Manchester United with Rooney and Ronaldo up front, which is probably as good as I've ever seen, by the way. I mean, Carlos Tevez was some player with Rooney and Ronaldo up front. That is as good as it gets. Tenacity, class, goals, skill, defending, attacking, link play, dribbling, everything. Everything you'd want to see in a football team and in a football player, them three had between them.
Carlos Tevez wasn't just a great footballer, he was an era. A 4-time Player of the Year, a Champions League winner, a 3-time Premier League champion with 2 different clubs, a 2-time Serie A champion, a Golden Boot winner, a man once called the best striker in England. So how in the world did we let him fade into the background? Because when you look at where this guy came from and what he became, you start to realise just how legendary Carlos Tevez truly was.
Imagine coming up against me and Carlos.
Oh, mate.
Where technically we can score goals, but
that's a long day.
Like 2 horrible, just Latin and leaving the foot in and tackling.
2 horrible big rats chasing you down every time you got the ball.
I always think that now, and it's mad because football's gone away from 2 forwards.
Yeah.
He's the player I've enjoyed most playing with as a forward.
In your career?
Yeah.
Is it?
I loved him.
Before Carlos Tevez became the superstar every club wanted, he was just a kid fighting his way out of one of the toughest neighborhoods in Argentina, Fuerte Apache. And when people say Tevez came from nothing, they don't mean humble beginnings. They mean a place where danger was normal, opportunity was rare, and making it out was almost impossible. Tevez didn't have the polished academy upbringing most stars brag about. He learned football on rough concrete pitches, dodging problems far bigger than defenders. That environment shaped him into the player the world would later fear: tough, relentless, and absolutely fearless on the ball. You couldn't bully him. You couldn't intimidate him. He had seen worse than any defender could throw at him. But here's what really sets Tevez apart. He wasn't just talented, he was driven. Every time he played, you could see the hunger, the fight, the urgency. He wasn't chasing fame or spotlight. He was playing like football was his only way out, because it was. His breakthrough at Boca Juniors didn't come from hype, it came from pure performance. He forced people to notice him. The energy, the pressing, the goals, the chaos he caused every time he touched the ball, it all started in those early days. And by the time he helped Boca win the Copa Libertadores and the Intercontinental Cup, Argentina knew they were looking at something special. Tevez didn't just rise, he erupted. And that eruption is what took him from the streets of Fuerte Apache to a stage much bigger than Argentina. Once Tevez exploded at Boca, everyone expected the classic path. Europe, next, big club, big money, the usual story. But Tevez didn't follow the script at all. Instead, he and Javier Mascherano did something nobody saw coming. They moved to Corinthians in Brazil, not on a loan, not on a short-term deal, but through one of the most complicated and controversial transfers football had ever seen. This was the MSI era, a private investment group backing Corinthians, throwing money around like a top European club and targeting South America's elite talent. And Tevez instantly became the centerpiece. Think about the pressure. You're the superstar signing, you're coming from Boca, and now you have to carry a Brazilian giant back to glory. Most players would need time to settle. Tevez didn't. He adapted immediately. He became the leader, the heartbeat of the team, and the driving force behind their 2007 Brasileirão title. And this wasn't a quiet season. He was the best player in the league. He was the face of the project. He was the one the entire fan base leaned on. That kind of expectation can break players. For Tevez, it only sharpened him even more. But the success didn't calm the situation. The transfer itself kept stirring controversy, ownership questions, financial disputes, bordering battles. It created constant noise around Tevez, yet he still delivered every single week, showing exactly why Argentina viewed him as their next global superstar. By the time Europe finally came knocking, everyone knew he wasn't just another talent. He was arriving with a reputation, a story, and a level of intensity you cannot fake. By the way, if you're enjoying this video, please hit the subscribe button. Thank you. When Tevez finally landed in England, he didn't join a settled top team or a Champions League contender. He arrived at West Ham, a club fighting for survival, and from day one, the whole situation felt unreal. This was a player who could walk into any squad in Europe, yet he was thrown straight into a relegation battle. And instead of complaining or acting bigger than the club, he embraced it completely. the Premier League immediately felt his presence. Even before the goals came, you could see the difference in intensity. Tevez pressed like every duel mattered, carried the ball like defenders weren't even obstacles, and played with that same desperation he had since Fuerte Apache. There was no ego, just a player who refused to walk on the pitch without giving everything. And then came the moment that basically wrote his name into West Ham history forever. The goals that saved the club. The free kick against Tottenham, the winner against Manchester United, the performances in those final matches. He didn't just help West Ham avoid relegation, he dragged them out of it. The entire league saw it, every big club saw it. Tevez had just proven he could thrive in the most physical, fast-paced environment in football.
Going on to striker.
Carlos Tevez. I love playing with Carlos, and he's gone on to do such great things in the game and win so many trophies. But for us that season, he was phenomenal.
But his time at West Ham was only the beginning. All the intensity, all the hunger, all the leadership, it was about to be tested at a much higher level. When Tevez walked into Manchester United, he wasn't coming to be a squad player or a rotation option. He was coming into a team already stacked with Wayne Rooney, Cristiano Ronaldo, Paul Scholes, Ryan Giggs, a squad full of personalities, champions, and players who didn't give up their places easily. But Tevez didn't try to be anything other than himself. He didn't posture, he didn't talk big, he simply worked. And that work rate is what won the dressing room and the fans almost immediately. At United, his game went up to another level. Ferguson wanted intensity, pressing, sacrifice, and sharp decision-making. Tevez delivered all of that without hesitation. He fit perfectly into a front line that became one of the deadliest in Europe. Rooney's movement, Ronaldo's explosiveness, and Tevez's constant drive created a trio that could beat you in any way they wanted. And in big moments, Tevez showed up.
Who is the worst player in training?
Tevez.
Exactly. When Tevez, I swear, like, he don't even do his list.
He didn't care.
He didn't care. He's like that. He's like a bear. He's sleeping. So sometimes I was like, you know, some player they say like, you play on the Sunday the way you train. But for those kind of players like Tevez, and I heard also Hazard, you don't need them to train. But Tevez, you know, at home he was always training on his own, running on the treadmill.
I didn't know that.
Yeah. It's like people, they don't like to train with the team, and I don't understand that. But at home they're doing the rest. But trust me, when the game was on, he was running. He was running for everyone on the pitch. He's a pit bull, La Pache.
Wow.
Champions League nights, league deciders, cup matches, he stepped into pressure like it was something familiar. His penalty in the shootout against Chelsea in the 2008 Champions League final set the tone for the entire team. His off-the-ball work in the Premier League title race was something the squad leaned on week after week. He wasn't the flashiest player in that United team, but he was one of the most essential. But the success didn't erase the complications. United wanted him, the fans adored him, but the contract situation dragged on, and the communication around his future became messy. It wasn't about performance. His performances were never the problem. It was about clarity, promises, and how long he was willing to wait for a club decision that never seemed to come. And when a player who gives everything starts to feel undervalued, it always leads to one thing: a move. When Tevez chose to leave Manchester United, nobody expected what came next. Players switch clubs all the time, but what Tevez did wasn't a normal transfer. It was a direct statement. He crossed the city and signed for Manchester City, a club that was rising fast but still building its identity. And overnight, he became the face of their new ambition.
When Tevez left for City, and then he started doing like the celebrations and like he was doing the dances in the dressing room, I'm sure people were getting annoyed at Tevez, right? Like
we were. I know the story behind the scene. He wanted to hurt Ferguson.
Yeah, because he thinks, why didn't you sign me?
Yeah, he wasn't the fan. You remember the big billboard they put, welcome to Manchester with him. I think all the marketing was in purpose to hurt Ferguson. Yes, I'll be honest, like when we play against City, I was like tackling like really hard or whatever, but we are brothers. But yeah, it's a painful. When I talk about this story, it's really painful.
It was avoidable as well because we had 2 years. It was a 2-year loan. We had 2 years in which to make it perm, and he was ready to go perm at United whenever. And we were singing the fans, and we were singing.
I remember.
And we were desperate for him to sign, and then when he didn't, it wasn't the fans' fault they didn't sign, it was the club decided against it. So when he joined City, that really hurt the fans.
This wasn't just a football move, it shifted the entire balance of power in Manchester. United fans felt betrayed, City fans felt reborn, and the Premier League finally had a rivalry that was about more than bragging rights. It was personal, emotional, and symbolic. And Tevez walked straight into the center of all of it. But beyond the noise, what mattered most was what he did on the pitch. Tevez didn't just arrive at City, he transformed them. He became captain, he became their main goalscorer, and he became the player they looked to every time they needed control, urgency, or leadership. He wasn't just scoring goals, he was setting the tone for an entire dressing room that was trying to learn how to win. And the numbers backed everything up. Golden Boot race, game-changing performances, moments where he practically carried the team by force. He didn't come to Manchester City to be a symbol, he came to win, and he made City believe they could actually do it. This version of Tevez, hungry, established, and determined to prove a point, pushed City into a new era. Before Manchester City became the powerhouse everyone knows today, they needed players who could drag them through the difficult stages, the moments where the club was ambitious but not yet proven. And this is exactly where Tevez was at his absolute best. He wasn't just scoring goals, he was setting standards. In the 2010-11 season, Tevez hit a level that showed City fans what a real elite forward looked like week after week. He wasn't only finishing chances, he was pressing from the front, creating openings, dropping deep when the team needed structure, and stepping up in every big match. When City needed direction, Tevez gave them purpose. When they needed personality, he gave them leadership. When they needed a statement, he delivered the goals. And then came the moment City had been waiting decades for. A major trophy. The 2011 FA Cup was the first real breakthrough. Tevez played a massive role in pushing the team through that season. Those performances built the belief inside the squad that City could finally compete with the biggest clubs. The FA Cup wasn't just a trophy, it was a turning point. It was the first sign that City were about to enter a different era entirely. But Tevez's influence didn't stop there. His intensity, his work ethic, and his expectations became part of the culture. You could see it in how the team carried themselves. City were no longer just trying to catch up, they were starting to act like the team that expected to win. And soon, that expectation turned into something much bigger. By the time the 2011-12 season arrived, Manchester City were no longer outsiders. They had the squad, the structure, and the momentum, but they still needed something more. Players who could handle the pressure of a title race. And this is where Tevez's presence became crucial again. His situation that season was complicated, but what mattered most was what happened when he returned. Tevez didn't ease back into the team. He immediately brought urgency, sharpness, and a level of competitive fire that City needed in those final weeks. Every minute he played, you could feel the difference. He created chances, linked play, and reminded everyone exactly why he'd been made captain in the first place. And when the title race tightened, when every match felt like a final, Tevez delivered performances that helped push City right to the edge of history. His hat-trick against Norwich, his combinations with Aguero, his willingness to take responsibility, all of it fed directly into City's late-season surge. They needed experience, they needed composure, they needed players who weren't afraid of the moment. Tevez brought all of that. Then came the final day. City didn't win the league solely because of one goal. They won it because of everything that built up to that day. The mentality, the belief, the refusal to give up even when circumstances looked impossible. Tevez had been a big part of instilling that mindset. He was one of the leaders who helped shift City from a team hoping to win to a team expecting to win. When City finally lifted the Premier League trophy, the first in 44 years, it wasn't just a club milestone. It was a confirmation that the project had arrived, and Tevez had played a key role in taking them there. After leaving Manchester City, Tevez didn't slow down. Instead, he took on a new challenge in one of Europe's toughest leagues, Serie A with Juventus. Italy was a different kind of test, more tactical, more defensively disciplined, and far less forgiving for attackers who relied on physicality over intelligence. But Tevez adapted instantly. He became a vital piece in Juventus' resurgence. The club was rebuilding, trying to reclaim the dominance they'd lost in previous years, and Tevez fit perfectly into their plans. His relentless work ethic, clever movement, and ability to create chances both for himself and his teammates made him invaluable. He wasn't just a scorer, he was the engine in attack, linking midfield to forwards and pressing the opposition relentlessly. Over his first 2 seasons, Tevez helped Juventus capture 2 consecutive Serie A titles, and he was a central figure in every campaign. His goals weren't just numbers, they were decisive strikes in key matches, the kind of moments that won games and titles. He carried over that same intensity he had in Argentina and England, proving he could dominate in a league known for stopping stars in their tracks. But perhaps more than the trophies, Tevez's time at Juventus showed that his greatness wasn't confined to one country or one style of football. He could adapt, excel, and lead wherever he went. Juventus wasn't just another stop in his career, it was a confirmation that he belonged among the elite, no matter the stage. After conquering Europe, Tevez felt it was time to return to where it all began, Boca Juniors. But this wasn't a farewell tour, it was a chance to lead, to dominate, and to write the final chapters of his career in the club that shaped him. From the moment he stepped back onto the pitch, it was clear Tevez hadn't lost a step. Back at Boca, he became the heartbeat of the team once again. He scored goals, created chances, and brought that relentless energy that had defined his entire career. In his first season back, he racked up 34 goals, proving he could still dominate domestically. Even a brief stint in China with Shanghai Shenhua didn't diminish his impact. As soon as he returned to Boca, he continued to deliver, scoring another 22 goals in 66 appearances, helping the club remain competitive and hungry for trophies. What made this stage of his career remarkable wasn't just the numbers, it was the leadership, the mentorship for younger players, and the fact that he carried himself like the same fighter who had left Argentina years earlier. He showed that no matter how many titles, leagues or clubs he'd conquered, his heart and his best football was still with Boca. And then, in June 2022, after an incredible career spanning multiple continents, trophies and unforgettable moments, Tevez announced his retirement from professional football. His decision was deeply personal, influenced by the loss of his father, Segundo, his #1 fan to COVID-19. It was a poignant reminder that behind every legendary career, there's a human story, and for Tevez, family always came first. This rounded off how great a career he had. He played for Manchester City, Manchester United, Juventus, Boca Juniors. He even rejected Inter Milan. He played for some of the best teams in the world, consistently competing at the highest level, and that makes you wonder, why did everyone want Tevez? Well, the answer lies in the way he played, in the qualities that made him so unique and impossible to ignore. Tevez's work rate was insane. He chased every ball, pressed every defender, and never let a single opportunity slip by. Even when the odds were against him, even when the team was under pressure, he maintained an energy level that inspired those around him. That kind of relentless drive is rare. It wasn't just about skill, it was about willpower and determination, and it made him a nightmare for opposing defenders. He was also incredibly versatile. Tevez could play anywhere across the front line, whether as a lone striker, a supporting forward, or even drifting out wide. His adaptability allowed coaches to build entire systems around him, knowing he could fit seamlessly into any role while still being a threat. That flexibility made him invaluable for every team he played for, and it gave him an edge over players who relied purely on one position or style. On the ball, Tevez was a brilliant dribbler. He had an uncanny ability to operate in tight spaces, to wriggle past multiple defenders, and maintain control under intense pressure. His close ball control and sharp decision-making meant that even when it looked like he was trapped, he could turn a situation into a scoring opportunity or a chance to unlock the defense. Despite not being physically imposing, Tevez was stronger than he looked. He could hold off bigger defenders, shield the ball, and absorb challenges without losing momentum. That combination of physical resilience and technical skill made him uniquely difficult to stop. He carried a toughness, a pure Argentinian fighting spirit that elevated everything he did on the field. Then, there was his finishing. Tevez could score from anywhere. Inside the box, from distance, volleys, headers, tap-ins. He combined instinct, timing, and technical precision to become one of the most complete scorers of his generation. But he wasn't just about goals. Tevez was also an exceptional link-up player. He had the intelligence to read the game, to move into spaces that created opportunities for teammates, and to combine in 1-2s that dismantled even the most organized defenses. Put all of this together, and you start to understand why Tevez was so sought after. He was a complete modern forward, before the modern forward even existed. Versatile, hardworking, skilled, strong, and intelligent. Any team that had him instantly gained a player capable of changing games, lifting teammates, and delivering in the moments that mattered most. That is why clubs like Manchester United, Man City, Juventus, and Boca Juniors all wanted him, and why he became one of the defining players of his generation. When people talk about the greats of modern football, Carlos Tevez's name often gets overlooked, and that's a real shame. He wasn't just a player who scored goals or won trophies. He was a force, a player who brought energy, intelligence, and sheer determination to every team he played for. From his rise at Boca Juniors, to dominating in Brazil with Corinthians, to conquering the Premier League with Manchester United and Manchester City, and then proving himself again in Italy with Juventus, Tevez consistently performed at the highest level. His skills, his unusual work ethic, and his versatility made him one of the most complete forwards of his generation. He could dribble, score, link up, and fight for every ball. He could adapt to any system, play in any league, and still leave an indelible mark. Beyond the trophies, beyond the accolades, Tevez's career is a story of perseverance, talent, and an unwavering drive to succeed. So the next time someone says Tevez wasn't that great, or that he's been forgotten, you can point them to the facts. He was a 4-time Footballer of the Year, a Champions League winner, a Premier League and Serie A champion, a Golden Boot winner, and one of the fiercest, most intelligent forwards of his era. Carlos Tevez wasn't just a great footballer, he was an era, and his legacy deserves to be remembered. Thank you for watching. Please hit the subscribe button if you haven't already, and thank you.